Welcome back, everybody, to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside my co-host, Hilary Roberts. Happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Holidays actually can be very, very triggering and tricky for people. Have you ever had experiences with holidays being tough and or triggering?
Oh,
and
yeah.
If so, what are some tips that you could provide?
Well, one of the things is if you have relatives that are narcissists, you do not have to be around them. Fortunately, at different times, I've been able to attend certain support groups that are open on Thanksgiving or celebrated Thanksgiving with friends that are family. As the years have progressed, what I would do is kind of imagine a force field around me, like that they're not doing it to me, they're just doing it. And that how can I respond in love? And sometimes, like in dealing with certain situations, I'd be like, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'd go to the bathroom and do a prayer. So maybe we've eaten a lot of food, and which is usually the case. And I say I need to go for a walk. And even if everybody wants to join, it keeps everybody active so that, I'm not engaging in the negativity, because I have a program of recovery. I'm in therapy. So it's like I'm responsible, and I may be the only example of that they may ever see.
I love that, though. What you're talking about is when you go into these uncomfortable environments is creating an exit strategy, right? I mean, an opportunity to alleviate yourself from what's going on, or even going to a point and having, going with somebody. If you're not married, you don't have a significant other, going with a friend or bringing somebody to that, to your family's house or to the function or the event that you're going to, and even just having like basically a keyword or a code of just like, hey, I'm not comfortable, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I think it's really coming up with an exit strategy. But I love those those little implementations of being able to go, hey, I need to go on a walk, and I've had too much food, or I'm gonna use the restroom, or I'm just gonna step outside and pray, make a phone call. And that's the other thing too, is like, it's making sure you're setting yourself up for success when you go in there. I always call it just having an exit strategy in general. And, if you're going to a toxic environment, I even, I let, a couple of my mentors and a couple of people that are in recovery know that,
right.
Hey, look, I'm going into a place that I want to be a part of. I want to spend time with my family, but also, I could really use your support. So just so I'm giving you a heads up that I'll be going there. And, if I call you, I'd really appreciate you or you to be able to answer. So I think it's just best preparing for it. And I guess fortunately on my side, I've never had those experiences with my family. I mean, I've always had a very good relationship, and I've had really quality experiences during the holidays, but I do know a lot of people go out during the holidays because there's a lot of toxicity and a lot of uncomfortability when it comes to those, and it brings up a lot of memories and a lot of trauma for people.
Absolutely. And the other thing is like this year, like I don't have I was, my family's getting together in Northern California.
Yeah.
And, I've been away from my sweetheart, off and on quite a bit this fall, with the blood clot and all that. But I can tell you that I just told everybody I want a day with just he and I, and we're going to go. We have a brunch set up for just he and I just wanted a nice quiet day, and there was nothing, bad about it. I just didn't want to travel anymore. I didn't want to take blood thinners to travel like I have to right now, and I just wanted to chill. And that's what I told him. And I saw him this summer, and I just said, I love you guys so much, but I just want to be with my sweetheart, and it's okay.
No, for sure. Well, before we bring in our incredible guest, I have to know, what is your favorite food you're looking forward to?
Man, can I tell everybody, how much I love stuffing with gravy on it?
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
I also like green bean casserole.
Yeah, you're weird.
You don't like the crunchy green bean casserole? Are you serious?
No, I'm not a green bean kind of guy. I don't really care for any.
Oh my
green
gosh.
Beans, no, peas. I don't like
that. Well, that's where you're mentally wrong. See, that's vitamin A.
Yeah.
For you, and that's what's that. Now I know the problem.
I take a supplement for that.
Okay.
No, but I really like. I'm probably gonna have to go with the stuffing as well. Stuffing and gravy is where it's at.
It's so good. It's so good. And this way the vegans don't have to be mad at us. Shoot. I have a lot of vegan friends. I have to be very respectful.
I get that. Well, hey, look, enough about us. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful day today. And
yes, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're grateful for all of you that listen to our show, and I hope it makes a difference we hope it makes a difference for you guys, and that you're not alone. If you're feeling crazy and nutsy today, send us a message on Instagram and just tell us, your feelings. If we will get back to you as soon as we can, but we'd love to hear from you and see how you're doing on Thanksgiving and hear what you're grateful for.
Yeah, 100%.
Did that make sense at all?
No, it was really good. It was. If you're feeling nutsy, but anyways, yeah, if you're struggling, or you want to reach out to us. But who do we got today? I see we got a great guest on the other side. Tell me about her.
Today, we are joined by the beautiful Sandy Benton, co-host of the Chris and Sandy Show. And they had me on as a guest, and I guess you'll be going on their show, I hope, soon. And when I saw her, she is just precious and kind. And as we were chatting a bit, she kind of touched on the surface of some of the things she walked out growing up and stuff. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from our beautiful Sandy. Hi, Sandy.
Hi. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Yeah, so I understand this is your first. You guys have done a ton of podcasts.
Yes,
but this is your first
500.
time. Oh, my stars. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But yes, this is my first time being on this side of the podcast.
Well, we are truly honored. We are truly honored. And so we start people with a very simple question, and we always ask, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, wow. Well, I always loved music. So I don't have singing ability, but I actually love writing songs. Not everyone knows that about me, but definitely wanted to be somehow in entertainment, acting, singing, songwriting. But I guess with our show now, with the podcast, in a small way, get to do that.
Yeah.
Well, all kind of comes full circle, right?
It does. Absolutely.
No, I love that, Sandy. Nice to meet you. I'm so grateful that you're here, and looking forward to hearing more about your story. And but so as you wanted to, growing up, you wanted to do those types of things. You wanted to, whether it was music or being in the entertainment industry. And I know that you've been able to get there in some way, shape, or form, like you said, with the podcast. But you obviously had some bumps along the way, and you had some things happen in your journey at an early age. Do you mind kind of opening up and sharing about what had transpired?
No, I don't mind talking about that. Yeah, I went through bullying at a young age when I was in junior high school and high school. And yeah, that was kind of a tough time period for me. I just felt so socially awkward. I was very shy, didn't talk to anyone, didn't have a lot of friends back then. So that was definitely a tough time period in my life.
So are you okay if I kind of talk about, because I have having kids now and seeing, I have a 4-year-old daughter. And again, this is where stuff can start to transpire and start to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially with, with my daughter coming back with things I know she definitely did not learn from us and mannerisms and behaviors. And can you kind of walk through that process? I mean, and again, I think a lot of us understand or we know what bullying is, right? But can you give us just walk through that with us a little bit?
Yeah, it was really kids that wasn't in my age group exactly that did the bullying. It was some older ones, and they just did a lot of taunting, teasing, things like that. And I was very insecure back then. I didn't really like myself, didn't feel good about myself, and it caused a lot of anxiety. It caused a lot of anxiety and kind of a little bit of depression too then at that time period. And I didn't really know how to deal with all of that.
No, 100%. And again, I really appreciate being so open and vulnerable around this, but I think in this time, in this day and age that we live in, this is obviously, it just continues to happen.
I know it's a lot tougher for younger people now, because in my younger days, we didn't have social media at that time. I'm sure that's got
right.
To
well,
be
I mean, but it's also not to mitigate what you gone through. I mean, that's a very trying and traumatic experience. And I mean, obviously, look what you just stated. I mean, you brought up some key things. One, I'd love to know, what age did this start to happen at?
Around probably a little bit in elementary, maybe around 11 or 12, really worse at 13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're going through this and you're you're 11, 12. I mean, you're obviously still fully developing. You don't even know,
Yes.
how to process stuff. You're just
Exactly.
trying to get through the day to day, right?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, you're still trying to be a kid too. And then you have
That's
these
right.
outside influences coming in, and you're starting to feel depression, anxiety, shame, guilt, whatever it may be. And we're not at a place to try to be able to process that at that age.
Right.
How did you cope or go through that?
Well, I was a Christian, so I did have my faith and my belief in God to lean on. That
Love that.
definitely was helpful during that time period.
Did you have insecurities and
Oh, yes.
depression and stuff like that prior to people saying stuff?
Not really. Not when I was younger. Before that, not really so much. It all sort of developed after that.
So let me ask you this. We kind of were talking on the podcast, and if you don't mind if I go a little deeper, but
Sure.
I kind of got the idea that you were probably abused like I was.
Maybe verbally.
Okay.
Verbally,
okay, but not in any
emotionally.
other ways?
No, thankfully not. So,
Yeah. So, but again, I remember the verbal abuse, and I was bullied too.
yes.
But the verbal abuse, sometimes you're like, just hit me, because
Yes.
I can't, like, it hurts your psyche so much when
Those
they
words really
Yeah.
cut. They can really cut and affect who you are.
Yeah, and it's like when they talk about that sticks and stones thing, I never understood
Yes.
it, because I'm like, these words
I know.
hurt, and they
They
feel
do.
like they're cutting me on the inside.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it felt.
When I think you look at this, right? I mean, from this perspective, is this innocent little child growing up. Again, was some of the stuff that was what Hilary brought up, was that happening within the household? Was there some more verbal abuse in the household? Or was it?
Yes, a little bit of verbal.
Okay. Yeah. So,
abuse
but having
going
that, and you're still trying to you're dealing just with, and that, I think there's different variations and there's different extremes. Don't get me wrong. But I think we all, parents argued when I was young and stuff like
Right.
that. So there's that, what you
Yes,
see
I
and what you're
witnessed
dealing
some of
with.
that.
Yeah.
And then there's the severities of what you've gone through, all the way to physical, emotional, mental abuse. I mean, there's definitely scales on that, but I'm just showing that there's that piece. And then to go and, go out into go to school and in a place that you think that you're going to grow and feel comfortable, feel safe. And, you're going there and it's adding all of these emotions, triggers, mental health issues that you didn't even know how to cope with, right? Because what I'm hearing you say is that you didn't really struggle with these things, the depression, the insecurities, the loneliness,
Right.
until
Later,
you
OCD, anxiety, hypochondria, all kinds of things after that.
Wow.
so it started to manifest, right?
It manifested and got worse over time, building on top of each other.
And so where did that ultimately take you?
Well, it was kind of a rough time period all through my teenage years. I was just so insecure and became so anxious and so sort of afraid, anxious about everything during that time period. It was kind of a dark road, but somehow when I got around 20, especially after I met my husband, I was able to come out of that, thankfully.
Wow.
What happened to help you come out of that? People that are alcoholic or drug addicts like us, we reach for that. Were there other things that you reached for, or did you just live in that darkness?
I kind of just lived in it during that time period. Yeah, luckily I didn't turn to substance abuse like my husband. That was what he turned to during his dark times. Luckily, now I probably did have a food addiction then. I will say that. That's probably what I turned to. Overeating, eating things that I shouldn't have.
Yeah. That's very, very common with all of us.
Yeah, very, very
Yes.
common. And but during that, so like there was, you never ended up going to go to a therapist. You never ended up going to a program, or
just one time, but I didn't really like the experience. It was not a good experience. And my mother was kind of the school that, we solve our own problems. We don't need to go to a doctor for help with any of that.
right?
Kind of just coped with it on my own.
So I want to ask you this too, because, okay, so you met your husband, but I know you guys went through a rough patch. So I want to know, I'm going to ask you this a couple of times.
Sure.
So you were able to get some relief at 20
Yes.
or later when you,
Yes,
so
and now in that time period too, I'd gotten a little better around 18, but at 19 I was diagnosed with cancer. I had
wow.
stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that was a rough time period also. I had to go through 8 months of chemotherapy treatments then, and that sort of led me back again to being anxious and depressed during that time period.
Wow. And so what did you do when you coming out of these things? What do you think happened that helped bring you out of some of that the anxiousness and all the dark times you were going through? My gosh, you've survived a lot.
I did a lot of prayer and tried to do a lot of self-awareness at that time to just try to realize that I am good enough. I'm a good person, that I shouldn't stay in this anxiety and worry all the time, and leaning on God again. Definitely.
See, I love that. I love that you're bringing faith into it. And, that's ultimately we have to go through so many changes. Many of us have to reestablish a faith. Mm-hmm. I won't say everyone, but the majority do that.
Yeah.
Right, Jay? And
100%.
And I do want to hear, I know you may have some questions too, but I eventually do want to hear about kind of how long you were married, when your husband started drinking, and what that did to you.
Yeah, no, and I think, kind of how we can segue into that is I was going to ask, and I'm so sorry to hear with cancer, you're in remission now?
Oh yes. Been in a remission over 20 years now.
That's absolutely incredible. Congratulations. And
Thank
prayerfully
you.
that stays away. But going back, where was your family during all this time? I mean, did you have the support and love from your family? Even from when you were younger all the way to when you unfortunately got cancer?
Well, I was an only child, so it was just me and my mom and dad, but they were there for me. I did have a lot of support from them during the cancer treatments and everything.
Got it. So I appreciate that. When did you meet your husband, and when did you guys get married?
I met him in 2002 when I was 25 years old. We actually met on a Christian singles website back then.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, in the early days of online dating, as we say.
Right. So you guys ended up and it sounds like there was he had his own trials and tribulations that you guys had to walk through as well. How did that?
He did, yes. We actually married, well, as he tells the story, he tells it better than me, but I can give a quick rundown. We met on 02/02/02. We talked on the phone 2 days later on, February 18th, we set a wedding date before we met in person March 4th.
Wow.
So we were meeting in person to see who we were going to be marrying. And we married October 5th of that year, same year, 8 months later.
Wow. That is crazy.
Yes. As they say, when you know. Both of us knew after the first phone call. It was amazing.
So tell me, when did the drinking start to become a problem? How did you deal with that? What was it like for you?
I didn't really know when we first met and before we got married that he even drank at all. I thought he was a non-drinker because he never mentioned it, never came up. And really the first 6 months after we married, he didn't really drink then, but his mother passed away 6 months after we married. That was the trigger for those addictions to start back up.
And
so he was sober when you met him?
Pretty much. He was a very light drinker. I think he'd just occasionally have one drink, maybe once or twice a month, something like that.
Yeah, that's very limited. So the passing of the passing of his mother though, really triggered something.
That triggered something in him that brought up a lot of pain for him.
And how did you, observing this, walking this out, and what did it look like? Did he disappear for days, or did he just drink at home, or what was it like, and how did you deal with that?
He would drink at home. He never drank out in public. We went to a lot of business networking events back then where they had the free alcohol and everything, but everybody thought he didn't drink because he never drank anywhere in public. He would buy it at the convenience store, bring it home, and just always drink at home. Tried to keep it hidden kind of from everybody else that knew us.
And what was that like for you? Did he change? Like, what was
He
it?
did change. Yes, he was a different person when he drank. Always. Yes, he became more angry and just difficult to deal with. Yeah, just not himself at all.
And how did you cope during that time? I mean, and what were your
That was a
feelings
lot of
like?
dark days for me. I couldn't really, he didn't take confrontation well, so I couldn't really confront him about it. I sort of kept it hid from my family and friends. I didn't have anyone really to lean on during that time. It was a lot of dark days. I did a lot of crying and praying for him to change because I knew he had to change on his own. He couldn't do it for me. I couldn't make him do it. He had to come to his own realization on that. And it was very difficult. Very difficult.
And how long did this last?
Pretty much 5 years into our marriage.
Wow.
5 whole years.
Wow. I'm going to tell him that your theme song is Stand By Your Man. I got from when you guys were interviewing me how grateful he was for you. And I'm going to tell him again, he needs to be. Dang. But Jason, his wife, the same thing. That's why I'm kind of pulling this out because, people that deal with alcoholics and what they and how they become these, we don't resemble anything human really.
Right. And it was not just alcohol. He was also hooked on ephedrine pills during that time period too. And that he hid from me. He would buy those and take those in secret without me knowing. I later found out about that, but he was very addicted to both.
Wow.
God, you've gone through a lot. You've experienced a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations, and it's amazing to see where you're at right now and just to see, the smile on your face and being able to how it almost seems like you're able to talk and walk through your past with respect. I don't know. There's a sense of like, it seems like you've healed in a lot of areas.
Oh, definitely healed a lot the past few years. Yes, I'm in so much a better place than I was.
So tell me this, your husband's been sober how long?
He's been sober, almost 14 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, December 26th will be 14 years sober.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So tell me, what are the gifts, since we're on Thanksgiving, what are the gifts from getting through all of these things? And it seems like right now you're living your best life.
Yes.
Tell me the gifts in your marriage. I got to see your beautiful son and hear about your other baby. I want to hear about these gifts.
Oh, I'm so blessed right now. So thankful for that. I have a great husband now and 2 beautiful, great children. Our 9-year-old Christopher. We have a 2.5-year-old little girl, Caitlin. And I'm just so grateful to have my health and to have peace and sanity right now and to be doing our show. We're so blessed. The guests that we get to talk to, it's been amazing. And we have a great church home now, just living in our faith. I have a lot to be thankful for right now.
Oh, I just love that.
So beautiful. So to kind of summarize everything up from your, from what you experienced from a young, 12-year-old to experiencing cancer and, then later on, with your husband, struggling with addiction and alcoholism, was there a moment of clarity for you or something that you did for yourself to help you get through this process? Or did you really kind of just sit in it, stick it out and just, and have it basically get better over the course of time?
Yeah, it was pretty much sticking it out. I did a lot of praying during that time, but I was praying without knowing if it was ever going to work, if he was ever going to change. It seemed during that time period like he wouldn't, like things would always be that way. And I was going to have to make a decision at some point that did I want to continue the marriage? Did I want things to go on like this forever? But I didn't want it to have to get to that point. And thankfully it didn't. But I sort of just held on and stuck it out.
What would be your advice for somebody that is in your shoes and what you've experienced? If they're in a similar situation, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would definitely tell them to try if they can to keep the faith and maybe talk to someone if they can, if they have someone in their life that they can. And if they're a believer, if they're a Christian like I am, to definitely lean on God, get in a good church home, find someone there they can talk to, and just try to stay as strong as you can, stay optimistic and keep the faith, keep hoping that things will get better.
I love
That's
that.
so beautiful.
So as we've talked about your husband and the stuff that you guys have gone through, and I heard about the show the other day. Tell us about the Chris and Sandy show and how that got started.
Oh, yes. Well, my husband, we had done a few interviews of just country artists back in 2014, 2015. We had a little site back then for just that, for country music. And he loved that so much. You'll tell when you talk to him, he loves talking to people. And he was like, we should start a show. We should start our own, a podcast. And I was like, really? We should start a show? And I was like, what would we call it? And he said, the Chris and Sandy Show, our names. I'm like, you're crazy. Nobody knows who we are, who is going to listen or watch or come on as a guest. And he was like, well, let's just start it. We need to start this and see what happens. And it just grew from there. We started in January of 2020, right before the pandemic really hit, a couple months before that. And he was like, well, this is an opportunity. This is an opening here that maybe we can reach out and get guests who wouldn't usually come on New Show. And he emailed a lot of PR agencies and we were able to get guests, and it just kept growing and building from there.
And how many listeners do you have now? You guys have a lot, don't you?
We have probably around 1,000 or so now. It's still building,
That's so
still
good.
in the growing
That's
stages.
so good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so incredible. It's really cool to see that you guys have gone through what you've gone through and to hear that you have a show now. What is the premise of the show?
Well, the premise of the show is to get stories. We want to find out. We talk to anyone in any way, shape, or form in the entertainment industry, whether it's an author, an athlete, an actress, a singer, just anyone who's doing anything in the entertainment world, to find out the real story, the raw story.
Okay, I like that.
And you had Matthew West on. How did that go?
He was a great guest. That was a fun one. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I mean, I really appreciate you, just taking this time with us and sharing all of this with us. And it's amazing what happens when you just open up and connect with people and to see what we're doing here and how you guys just met, not too long ago. And we're here talking about very real subjects and a lot of things that people go through. And there's a lot of relatability here and connectivity and, just really appreciate that. And so if people want to connect with you, want to see the show, what are ways that people could find you?
Oh, yes. They can find us on Facebook. Just search for The Chris and Sandy Show. And we also have a YouTube channel. They can search for that on YouTube and hopefully subscribe and check it out.
Awesome.
You're just so precious, Sandy.
So sweet.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you are. It's so, what I love about this interview today, we have a lot of listeners that had to turn to other things, and you walked out that pain, and you went through these trials and tribulations, and yet you turned to God, and that's so brave. It's so brave, and I know a lot of people that are codependent that that experience, and the people that have had the bullying and all of these things that don't turn to the substances, but turn to like you talked about food, which I've been there, but you really, there's so many people that can relate to that, and it's just wonderful to hear your experience, and and your experience with faith and your courage of walking through all of that.
Oh, thank you.
What an incredible woman you are.
Oh, thank you so much. That really means a lot coming from you.
We appreciate you, Sandy, and really appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thanks so much, guys.